Hello and welcome to a video that no one asked for. We are going to talk about my 5 least popular opinions as a math educator and tutor. And we're not talking like math homework can be pointless. A lot of people think that. Instead, we're going to talk about things that you probably or will disagree with, and that is okay. And I've already recorded this video once, and I got the video and it did not have any audio. So this is my second go of it, and I'm hoping to make it just as good as the first one. We are going to start with my more tame opinions and then go to my least tame opinions at the very end. So we're going to go from 5 to 1. Let's not delay any further. Let's talk about my number 5. And this is that you might not actually be bad at math, and the way that you're talking about how you're bad at math could actually be affecting your kid negatively. And here's what I mean. You might have a perception of yourself as being bad at math. And that's totally valid because it's based on your personal experiences. I'm not going to tell you that how you feel is wrong. But it could be that you have not done math or been taught math in a way that works for you. Our brains are elastic and they can grow and change and learn throughout our lives, even as adults. And a lot of us are taught math in a way that was very straightforward. It was listen to the lecture, sit and take notes, and then do the problems on your own. And it didn't work out the best for all of us. And it could have left you feeling like you're bad at math because you got bad grades on the tests. You couldn't memorize the facts, or you couldn't otherwise perform in the way that you were expected to. I did not learn that I could do math until I was in my mid 20s because I started to learn the new ways of teaching and learning mathematics. And I realized that that straightforward listen, write notes, memorize did not work for me. So you could have been taught in a way that doesn't work for you. You could actually have a really great math brain. Even so, the way that we talk about our math abilities in front of our kids can really affect them. So, kids hearing things like, well, you got it from me. I wasn't really good at math either. Or, yeah, that math gene just doesn't really run in our family, might help to soothe them in the moment because that's what we're trying to do, right? Be like, it's okay that this is hard for you. You don't need to be distressed about it. But what it can do long term is make them think, wow, I don't have that ability preset within me. And so, why is it important that I even try? I can't grow. I'm not going to ever become a great math learner because of my genes or because I got it from my parents. And so, why would I even try? They may also just hear from you that it is not worth the try or the risk. And so instead of saying things like, oh, I'm bad at math, or you're bad at math just like me, it's okay, we're better at English, saying other things to help in those moments of difficulty, like, we can look at this and work on this together. It is okay to struggle and try and struggle some more. Instead of saying things like, it's okay that you're bad at math, I'm bad at math too. Number 4, flashcards don't work. And I actually made a whole video about this if you want to go check it out. But flashcards, in the traditional sense of how we normally use them, where we hold the stack of flashcards, flash up the problem, the kid says the answer, and we check to see if it's correct, do not work for a lot of kids. At best, they are helping kids only reinforce the facts that they know and might even reinforce some incorrect answers because they just keep saying the incorrect answer over and over. At worst, they could be furthering math anxiety for kids who already have math anxiety and have anxiety about performing math for other people. So when we hold up those flashcards and we're just drilling them over and over, we're not getting a whole lot of active learning. Instead, we can use flashcards in a different way by helping kids actually think about how they could come up with the answer to that problem. So for multiplication, doing things like putting a Post-it over the back of that note and actually writing down a hint on how they could figure out the answer is going to help them actually get the tools that they need in order to recall quickly long term. A lot of kids who are great at flashcards, those facts can often leave their brain as soon as they're not being drilled anymore. And we don't want that. Instead, we want active learning. So, flashcards in the traditional sense, not my favorite. Some kids really love them and they really work for them. I'm not going to tell you not to do something with your kid that they enjoy and that works for them. But if it's not working for them, it's not your kid, it's the flashcards. They suck. I said what I said. Now for number 3. And here we're starting to get into more controversial stuff. And my number 3 is that everyone should be allowed to use their fingers when they do math. Okay. Fingers during math is not just a kindergarten, first grade thing. And often, I know when I was in school, it was very discouraged for kids who are older than first or second grade to be using their fingers when doing math. But here's the thing. There are studies out there that show that being able to access your fingers while you're doing math is actually really helpful. And we have our fingers all the time. So it's not like using a tool or a crutch that you're not always going to have, like a calculator, for instance. And instead, we have our fingers all the time. And you can do really complex calculations on your fingers. It does not have to just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be skip counting. It can be keeping track of multiplication that you've done. It could be keeping track of time. Kids could actually be using their fingers, and you might not know what is going on in their head with the calculation that they're doing. Now, here is some nuance to this. Obviously, we don't want a 5th grader counting by ones on their fingers to do addition. That is going to become really cumbersome and really hard very quickly. And so we're always going to encourage kids to become more sophisticated with their tools and with their strategies because we don't want them bogged down by crutches. But if kids are using their fingers in a way that is efficient, quick, and works for them, they should be allowed to use their fingers. Number 2, and some of you guys might want to fight me on this, and that is completely okay. Let me know about it in the comments. I think that kids should be allowed to use calculators during their homework. Hear me out. Not when their homework is purely fact-based, okay? So when they're learning their math facts, obviously we don't want them to use a calculator because then they're not learning anything. They're just relying on that crutch to tell them the answers. Or when they're learning how to compute, like adding multiple digit numbers or multiplying multiple digit numbers, we want them to be thinking about their math facts when they're doing that. But when they're learning a new skill or a new concept that is not about the calculation and instead about understanding some other type of concept like fractions, we can let kids use the calculator to help them take some of the load off of their brain in that area, the calculation area, and focus more on the concept that they're learning. Okay, so kids who struggle with math facts can be bogged down by those math facts in a way that keeps them from accessing what their class is learning at the moment. And that is not good because we don't want kids to be just stuck on those math facts when they could still be learning and keeping up with their class and then working on those math facts at a different time. So kids who struggle with math facts or get bogged down and tired with that calculation piece when they are learning something else and they need to just know the concept and the steps that they need to take in order to problem solve that concept, using a calculator or a math fact chart is not a bad thing. It can help them access what they're trying to learn without getting bogged down in the nitty gritty. And then at a different time, you can focus solely on those math facts and making sure that you have strategies to recall them and making sure that the kid understands the math facts and can recall them quickly for later use. And number 1, my most unhinged opinion, or you might think it's unhinged, is that Common Core math does not suck. Contrary to popular belief, I do not think that Common Core math sucks. And there's a lot of nuance to this. So listen all the way to the end before you argue with me in the comments, and I would love to argue with you in the comments. I like Common Core math standards, and I read all of them because I work with students in kindergarten all the way through ninth grade. These standards were written to help make sure that kids get a good trajectory of learning throughout their math career. So they make sure that kids have deep understanding of these core concepts that are important in math: fractions, decimals, multiplication, division, place value, pre-algebra, algebra, and that it continues through the grades in a way that's continuous and based in research. And that's where it comes in, is research. We want to help kids learn in the way that we know that is best at the time. And I compare this to how we do knee surgery. We would not want to do knee surgery today the way that we did 25 years ago. There's been a lot of research in between those, and we want to make sure that we are doing it in the best, least invasive, most beneficial way that we can. Math education is the same way. So it's not the same way that you learned math when you were a kid. And that can feel strange to you, especially if you feel like it worked well for you. But there's been a lot of research in the last 25 years that has brought us to this point where we feel like we know how to help kids understand concepts better, get better outcomes when it comes to their math education. And I hope that we are not doing math in this way in another 25 years. I would hope that there's something even better then. And so the Common Core math standards are written based on research and a lot of, field experience and things from the people who have written them. But where the breakdown can sometimes happen is in implementation, okay? Not all curriculums are the same when they're written to meet those Common Core standards. And sometimes things like a district telling a school, you need to use this certain curriculum based on the Common Core standards, but then not giving the teachers the time, the money to look at that curriculum, master that curriculum, and ask questions about that curriculum so they feel confident teaching it, can lead to a breakdown in how kids are learning that math. So I'm not saying that if you've had a frustrating experience with Common Core math, that's invalid, because it happens a lot. And it depends on the curriculum and the district and how it's being implemented and how many resources and development days that teacher has been given in order to feel confident with that curriculum, because this is a new way of teaching that they might not have learned growing up, and they may not have even learned in their teaching practicums, depending on how long they've been teaching. It is complex. It is not an easy thing to tackle, but these standards and the way that we are teaching math now versus the way that we taught math 25 years ago is headed in a positive direction, in my opinion. And so thinking about how to help kids get deep understanding of math concepts, really understand the why behind everything, instead of just that lecture, take notes, do the problem version of how we learned math in the past, is going to result in more positive math outcomes for students and just better citizenship skills from kids when it comes to the math side of being an informed citizen. Those are my unpopular opinions. I would love to hear yours in the comments, and I would love to hear your questions or arguments against what I had to say. Make sure that you like and subscribe to never miss an episode to help your child get the math education they need, want, and deserve. And make sure that you stick around for next week's video, which is going to be over the Fibonacci sequence and how we can do a fun craft with kids to learn about that sequence that we see everywhere in nature. I'll catch you next time.